You know, I've learned something in this life. Sometimes being alone is not the worst thing. It's the best thing that ever happened to you. We live in a world that teaches us to depend on applause, on company, on validation. But let me tell you, the loudest applause you'll ever hear comes when you can sit in silence by yourself and still feel at peace. I had to learn that happiness doesn't come from who's sitting at your table. Happiness doesn't come from the crowd, the noise, or the spotlight. Happiness comes when you let go of what's breaking you and start holding on to what builds you. And sometimes that means walking alone. But alone doesn't mean empty. It means strong. It means free. And it means ready for the next chapter of your life. When I talk about solitude, I'm not talking about loneliness. I'm talking about those moments when you sit with yourself. No phone ringing, no one calling your name, no applause, no audience, just you. I had to learn that lesson in my own journey. When I was young, I thought happiness was being surrounded by people, friends, parties, laughter, and noise. I thought the more people around me, the more important I must be. But as life moved forward, I began to see something. The people around you are not always with you. Some clap for you when you win, but they disappear when you stumble. Some celebrate your rise, but they don't comfort you in your fall. And in those quiet moments, I realized something powerful. If you don't know how to be happy when you're alone, you will never be truly happy with anyone else. There were nights I sat alone, thinking about where I was going, about the mistakes I made, about the choices I had to face. And it was in those nights that I discovered who I really was. Alone, I had to answer questions about myself. What do I really want? What kind of man am I when nobody's watching? What do I stand for when there's no crowd to cheer me on? Those questions don't get answered when you're distracted by the world. They get answered when it's just you in the silence. That's where you grow. That's where you build your foundation. Being alone doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've been given a chance to build. Think about it like this. When a building is under construction, they close it off. Nobody gets in until it's ready. That's how life works. Sometimes you've got to close yourself off from the world to do some building inside. And when you finally step out, you're stronger, wiser, ready. I had to embrace that truth. I had to learn that solitude is not punishment. It's preparation. When you embrace solitude, you discover strength you didn't know you had. You begin to see that you don't need constant approval. You don't need to chase love in the wrong places. You don't need validation to define who you are. Happiness is not a gift someone else hands you. It's something you build with your own hands. And solitude gives you the tools to build it. I found that when I stopped running from being alone, I started running into my true self. I know what it feels like to fear silence, to think that being by yourself means you're unwanted or unloved. But let me tell you something, being alone doesn't mean you're unloved. Sometimes it means God is pulling people away from you so he can get your attention. Sometimes it means he's showing you that you already have everything you need inside. Those quiet seasons are not punishment. They're protection. They're shaping you, building you, preparing you for what's ahead. There were times I thought I needed people to feel complete. But the truth is, when I learned to be happy alone, I stopped needing and I started choosing. That's the difference. When you're desperate for company, you'll accept anyone, even if they hurt you. But when you're content with yourself, you'll only choose what aligns with your peace, your purpose, your values. That's freedom. That's power. So I tell you this, learn to sit with yourself. Learn to enjoy the silence. Learn to hear your own voice before you go chasing the noise of the world. Because one day you'll realize the best conversations you've ever had were the ones you had with yourself, in prayer, in reflection, in honesty. That's where happiness begins. That's where you stop running from solitude and start walking with strength. Happiness is not found in the crowd. It's found when you can sit in a quiet room, breathe, and say, I'm enough, I'm whole, and I'm ready. There comes a point in your life when you realize you can't carry everything with you. You can't carry every relationship, every memory, every mistake, every voice that told you who you are or who you're not. At some point, you've got to let go. And I'm not talking about letting go because you don't care. I'm talking about letting go because you do care. You care about your peace. You care about your future. You care about becoming the person God put you on this earth to be. And you can't become that person if you're weighed down by people and things that keep you stuck in the past. I've had to walk away from things I thought I couldn't live without. People I thought would be with me forever. Opportunities I thought were meant for me. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. Letting go never is. But here's what I found. The things I thought I couldn't live without were the very things holding me back. They were teaching me to settle for less than I was worth, to stay smaller than I was called to be. And when I finally let go, I realized I hadn't lost anything. I had made space for something better. You see, holding on is easy. Anybody can hold on. You can hold on to anger, to resentment, to fear, to people who don't respect you, to situations that drain you. But it takes real strength to release it. To say, this is not for me anymore. To say, I love myself enough to walk away. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. And wisdom will take you further than holding on ever will. The truth is, some people are only meant to be chapters in your story, not the whole book. But we try to keep rewriting those chapters, trying to make them fit into a part of the story where they don't belong. And the more we force it, the more we suffer. You've got to trust that when a door closes, it's not rejection, it's direction. It's God's way of saying, this isn't your path anymore. I've got something greater waiting for you. I'll tell you something I learned. You cannot take everybody with you where you're going. Not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. And if you try to drag them along, you'll slow yourself down, and sometimes you'll lose yourself in the process. I had to learn that being loyal to my peace was more important than being loyal to my pain. And that's a decision every one of us has to make. Do you want to keep carrying what's breaking you? Or do you want to free your hands to catch what's meant for you? Letting go doesn't always mean erasing people from your life. Sometimes it just means releasing the hold they have on your mind and your heart. It means forgiving, not for them, but for you. It means saying, I'm not going to replay this over and over again in my head. I'm not going to keep bleeding from the same wound. I'm going to heal. Because happiness is not about what you hold on to. It's about what you're willing to release. And I'll be real with you. The first time you let go, it's going to hurt. It's going to feel like you're breaking. You'll question yourself. You'll wonder if you made a mistake. But give it time. You'll see that the pain of letting go is nothing compared to the peace of being free, the peace of not carrying what was never yours to carry, the peace of standing tall without the weight of yesterday pulling you down. So, if you're holding on to something that's been stealing your joy, something that's been keeping you up at night, I want you to hear me. It's okay to release it. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to choose yourself. Don't be afraid of the space that letting go creates. That space is sacred. That space is where God moves. That space is where new blessings come in. And I promise you, what's waiting for you on the other side of letting go is so much greater than what you're afraid to lose. That's how you find happiness alone, not by adding more, but by releasing what was never meant to stay. When I think about happiness, I think about all the years I chased it in the wrong places. I thought success, fame, applause, money, those things would fill me up. I believed if I could just reach a certain level, then I'd finally be happy. But let me tell you, when you get there, when you've achieved what the world tells you is success, and you lay your head down at night, you realize something: none of that matters if you don't have peace within yourself. You can have a room full of people cheering for you. You can have your name in lights. But if you haven't defined happiness for yourself, you'll always feel empty. I had to learn the hard way that happiness is not something someone else can hand to you. It's not a gift that people can give. Happiness is a decision you make every day. It's the way you look at life, the way you respond when things don't go your way, the gratitude you carry for the small blessings that others overlook. You see, if your happiness depends on people or things, then you're always at risk of losing it. People walk away. Things fade. Circumstances change. But when happiness is built inside of you, when it comes from faith, from gratitude, from a sense of purpose, nobody can take that away from you. There was a time in my life when I wanted everyone to like me, when I wanted to be accepted everywhere. I thought that approval would make me happy, but I realized you can please the world and still lose yourself. And what good is that? Because at the end of the day, when the lights go off, when the crowd goes home, you have to sit with yourself. If you don't like the man or the woman looking back at you in the mirror, no amount of recognition is going to change that. That's why I had to stop chasing what happiness looked like on the outside and start building what it feels like on the inside. Being alone taught me that. Alone time gave me clarity. It forced me to ask, who am I without all of this? Who am I without the cameras, without the roles, without the noise? And the answer to that question, that's where happiness begins. Because happiness is not about adding things to your life. It's about peeling away what doesn't belong. It's about letting go of the need to be validated and finding peace in being authentic. I've seen people with nothing who are happier than millionaires. I've sat with men and women who had lost everything, yet their joy was untouched. And I've also seen people who had everything money could buy, yet they were miserable, empty, always searching. That's when I knew happiness doesn't come with a price tag. Happiness doesn't come when people say you've made it. Happiness comes when you wake up in the morning and you're grateful just to breathe, just to walk, just to have another chance. For me, I had to anchor my happiness in something greater than myself. My faith has always been that anchor, because if I base my happiness on circumstances, then every storm can take it away. But if I base it on something eternal, something unshakable, then no matter what comes, I can stand. Happiness is built on a foundation of gratitude, prayer, and purpose. It's built when you stop saying, I'll be happy when, and start saying, I'm happy now, where I am, even while I'm working for more. I tell young people all the time, don't let this world trick you into believing happiness is something you buy, something you wear, or something you chase. Because if you chase happiness, you'll always be running. But if you decide to create happiness within yourself, you'll realize it was never missing. It was always there. You just had to see it differently. So, when I talk about being happy alone, I don't mean you shut the world out forever. I mean you get strong enough to know that your joy, your peace, your smile doesn't depend on anyone else. And when you can do that, when you can walk alone and still feel whole, then when you do meet people, When you do share your life, you're not depending on them to complete you. You're already complete. That's when relationships, friendships, and opportunities become an addition, not a necessity. Happiness is not found out there. It's created in here. And once you understand that, once you define happiness on your own terms, you'll stop searching and start living. You'll stop comparing and start appreciating. You'll stop waiting for the perfect moment and realize that this moment, right here, is enough. There was a time in my life when I thought happiness was something you found in other people. I thought it was in the friends you kept close, the people who cheered you on, the relationships that seemed to define your worth. But I realized that if your peace depends on somebody else, then you don't really own it. It's rented. And the moment they walk away, your happiness walks away with them. That's when I had to learn the hardest, but most liberating lesson of all. You have to learn to love yourself first. Now, loving yourself doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean thinking you're better than anyone else. It means respecting yourself enough to say, I deserve peace. I deserve to be treated with love. I deserve to stand in rooms where I don't have to shrink who I am to be accepted. I learned that when you truly love yourself, you stop chasing people who only want a piece of you, but never want the whole of you. You stop begging for love in places where love isn't being offered. And you start building a life that feels right for you, not one that just looks right to others. I can remember seasons in my life where I felt empty, even when I was surrounded by people. I thought being busy, being popular, being connected meant I was whole. But there were nights I laid my head down and still felt alone. That's because I was giving everything I had to others, but I hadn't poured anything into myself. I had to step back, take time alone, and really face the man in the mirror. That wasn't easy because silence makes you confront yourself. Silence makes you deal with your insecurities, your mistakes, your doubts. But it's in that silence that you grow. It's in that stillness that you start to heal. I began to understand that love is not something you wait on somebody else to give you. It's something you cultivate within. When you love yourself, you set the standard for how the world treats you. People can only go as far as you allow them. If you don't respect yourself, they won't either. If you don't see your own worth, they'll discount it. But when you walk in the room with confidence, when you hold your head high, when you move like you belong, because you've already affirmed yourself, people have no choice but to adjust to that energy. Now, let me tell you something. Self-love is not about perfection. It's not about always feeling good or always having it together. It's about giving yourself grace. It's about forgiving yourself for what you didn't know yesterday and giving yourself permission to grow today. It's about understanding that you don't need to have all the answers, but you can still trust yourself to take the next step. And I learned too that happiness starts to shift when you stop comparing your life to everybody else's. Somebody out there will always have more money, more fame, more recognition. But they don't have your journey. They don't have your story. They don't have the lessons God placed in your path. When you start to see your own life as valuable, when you stop wishing you had what someone else has, you begin to unlock a joy that no one can take from you. That's what self-love gives you. It gives you freedom from comparison, freedom from needing permission, freedom from waiting on somebody else to validate your worth. When I think about the times I've been truly happy, it wasn't because of applause or attention. It was because I felt aligned with myself. I knew who I was. I knew what I stood for. And I didn't need anyone else to tell me I was enough. And the truth is, when you start to love yourself deeply, you'll find that you have more love to give to others. because you're no longer given from a place of emptiness. You're giving from overflow. You're not asking someone to complete you. You're inviting them to share in the completeness you already have. So yes, being alone at times may feel uncomfortable, but it is in that space that you learn the greatest love of all, the love you give yourself. And once you've mastered that, no storm, no setback, no rejection, no betrayal can take away your joy, because your happiness is not in their hands anymore. It's in yours. When I think about happiness, real happiness, I've come to understand that it isn't about the noise around you. It's about the quiet inside of you. I know what it feels like to be surrounded by people, yet still feel alone. I know what it feels like to chase dreams, achieve them, and still sense a certain emptiness when the lights go off and the crowd goes home. That's when I discovered something that changed my life forever. Happiness isn't something the world can give you. It's something you build inside yourself when you have faith, when you live with purpose, and when you realize you are never truly alone. There were moments in my life when I questioned everything. Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? What happens when the applause fades? That silence can scare you if you don't know what it means. But in that silence, I found God. I found strength. I found that my mission wasn't about what people thought of me. It was about what God put inside of me. When you have faith, when you understand that your steps are ordered, loneliness doesn't break you, it builds you. You begin to see that solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. See, when you're alone, you have two choices. You can let that loneliness crush you, or you can use that solitude to connect with your higher calling. I chose the second. I learned to pray in the silence, to listen in the stillness, and to trust in the unseen. Faith gave me power. Purpose gave me direction. And those two things together gave me a happiness that no person, no award, no amount of money could take away. That's the kind of happiness I want for you. I remember times when people walked out of my life, when opportunities slipped through my hands, and when I thought I had lost everything. But what I realized later was that I hadn't lost anything. I was being positioned. God was removing what I thought I needed so He could give me what I truly needed. And when you understand that, you stop chasing people. You stop chasing approval. You stop chasing what was never meant for you. You stand firm in your faith. You stand firm in your purpose, and happiness starts to flow from within you. Happiness is not a destination you arrive at when everything is perfect. Happiness is waking up in the morning and knowing you are right where you are supposed to be, even if you're still on the journey. Happiness is trusting that every closed door has a reason, every delay has a purpose, and every lonely season is shaping you for the person you're becoming. Happiness is not about being surrounded. It's about being grounded. When I stand alone, I don't feel alone anymore because I know God is with me. That's not just something I say, that's something I've lived. I've seen moments when faith carried me farther than talent ever could. I've seen purpose give me strength when I wanted to quit. And in those moments, I realized that no matter what this world takes from you, if you have faith and purpose, you'll never lose your joy. So if you're in a season where you feel by yourself, don't let that discourage you. Let it build you. Use that time to connect with your Creator. Use that silence to hear your own voice. Use that space to find your purpose. Because when you step into the world with that kind of inner strength, nobody can break you, nobody can define you, and nobody can take away the happiness that's rooted deep inside of you. I want you to understand this. Being happy alone doesn't mean you don't need people. It means you don't depend on people for your peace. It means that if they stay, you're blessed. If they leave, you're still blessed. because your happiness doesn't come from them. It comes from something eternal, something unshakable. And when you live that way, when you trust your faith and embrace your purpose, you'll never truly be alone.